Castillo de San Marcos National Monument, Florida, 360 degrees, National Park Service logo. Jill Leverett, Park Ranger, American Indian Incarcerations of the late 1800s, inside a casemate at the Castillo.
Although the Castillo de San Marcos was originally built as a protector, a few times it was also used as a prison. In 1875, the United States Army sent 74 prisoners from 5 different Plains Indian tribes east to St. Augustine to be incarcerated at the Castillo, at the time known as Fort Marion.
A black and white photograph of Native Americans imprisoned at the Castillo.
The prisoners were mostly male warriors from the Cheyenne, Arapaho, Comanche, Kiowa, and Caddo tribes, and they had been sent out here after the Red River War, which was a result of tensions between Native Americans and white settlers coming to a violent head. These prisoners were sent out here at random, mostly to make an example of them to the rest of the Plains Indians. They were shackled, kept under lock and key, and confined to the rooms in the courtyard of the Castillo. Conditions were very crowded, and disease and despair were constant concerns.
A black and white photo of Captain Richard Henry Pratt.
About 6 months after the prisoners arrived, a new jailer took over at the fort, Captain Richard Henry Pratt, and he instituted many important changes.
Photos of Native Americans. One photo shows a group in U.S. Army uniforms, lined up in formation, some holding rifles.
The chains and shackles were removed, the barricade to the gun deck was removed, and the prisoners were given materials to build their own barracks building on the north wall of the gun deck, where the sea breeze could keep them much more comfortable than when they were confined to the rooms downstairs.
A group photo of Native Americans with a female teacher and several children.
Pratt recruited local women to teach English, Christianity, and other elementary level skills to the prisoners. Pratt even created a guard unit of the prisoners, giving them Army uniforms and weapons and teaching them to drill and guard themselves. The prisoners were also encouraged to make money to send to their families by making things to sell to tourists. They would polish sea beans and paint them, make bows and arrows, and the most famous artwork produced by the prisoners here at the Castillo was the ledger art. The Plains Indians were talented artists before they came to Fort Marion, although their artwork was traditionally done on animal skins.
Various pieces of Native American ledger art depicting life in the Castillo, including ships in the harbor, riding the train, guarding the Castillo gate, and performing a native dance for the soldiers.
Here at Fort Marion, they were provided with large pieces of paper from ledger books, as well as oil pastels and colored pencils, to create their artwork. These ledger artworks are some of the best records we have of the Plains Indians' time here at Fort Marion. They depict scenes such as their train ride from the west to Florida, the view from the gun deck when they were here, classes being held in the chapel, buffalo hunts being held on the grounds, and many more. Pratt worked to assimilate the prisoners while they were here, asking them to give up their cultural identity to learn a new way of life. Some of the prisoners were more receptive to this program than others. About 20 of them chose to stay in the East and continue their education when the prisoners were released from Fort Marion in 1878. But at least one prisoner chose to leave his mark here at the Castillo. Remembering his cultural values, he chose to carve a Kiowa Sundance camp scene on one of the coquina walls here at the fort, which is still today a lasting physical reminder of this tragic Native American experience here at the Castillo.
A photo of the Kiowa Sundance carving in the wall, then a drawing of the Sundance overlays the photo of the carving.
Unfortunately, this was not the last time this fort was used to imprison Native Americans. In 1886, more trains brought more prisoners to Fort Marion, this time from several different Apache tribes. Apache war leaders such as Geronimo and Chihuahua had been fighting against the U.S. Army for many years, resisting the efforts to push them onto reservations. But they could only fight for so long, and eventually they began to surrender one by one. The United States government was concerned that if the Apaches remained in the West, they would go back on the warpath. So eventually, over 500 Apaches were sent from Oklahoma to St. Augustine. When they arrived here at Fort Marion, the conditions were very crowded once again. For the most part, the prisoners were housed on the gun deck in tents, and their daily rations were Army rations. Disease and crowding was a concern. Also, the fact that the prisoners had very little to do aside from take care of their children and prepare food daily.
A group photo of some Apaches labeled with names. Another photo shows several Apaches dressed in shirts, pants, boots, and hats of the time.
So once again, the jailer in charge instituted a program of assimilation. Local women were recruited to teach English, Christianity, science, arithmetic, and other elementary level skills. And to alleviate some of the crowding, the Apaches were allowed to leave the fort, walk around the grounds outside the building, and even go into town. After just over a year of incarceration at Fort Marion, the Apaches were sent to Alabama and then out to Fort Sill in Oklahoma. But once again, one of the prisoners chose to leave their mark on the Castillo. An Apache fire dancer is carved on one of the coquina walls of the fort, another lasting reminder of this sad chapter of the Castillo's history.
A photo of an Apache fire dancer transitions to a photo of the carving.
As you visit the Castillo, take a close look at these carvings on the walls. They are under glass so that you can find them easily. Try to imagine what these prisoners felt when they were here, ripped away from their homes and families, sent far, far away from the only home they had ever known, and locked up for months or years at a time. Please help us preserve these important remnants of this period of the Castillo's history by not touching any of the carvings that are under the glass.
For more information, visit facebook.com/CastilloNPS, www.nps.gov/CASA, National Park Service logo, St. John's County Tourist Development Council logo, culture around every corner, St. Augustine and Pontevedra, culture around every corner logo, a service of St. John's Cultural Council.